Thank you all for being here today. It's a long ways from Idaho, but I appreciate your testimony. I go down and visit with Donna and the Business Council periodically and talk about things. And if I don't get up to North Idaho at least once a year, I don't feel like it's been summer because it's so beautiful up there and stuff. But I appreciate you taking the time to be here today. It is Chairman Cole that taught me several years ago when we both served on this committee, and that he went through and showed me a chart of how much we spend on veterans' health care. And you'd expect that to be higher because there's a lot of injuries in war and et cetera and stuff. And then how much we spend on everybody else's health care, average person across the United States, and then how much we spend on Indian health care per Indian. And the differences are stunning. And we wonder why the lifespan of Indians is going down rather than going up like everybody else. This is a challenge, and that's why this committee has been focused on this for a number of years. And I asked this question during hearings last year because I was hearing this from several tribes that would come in and visit with me and stuff. And I haven't got an answer yet, and it's something that I'm not proposing. This is what people are talking to me about, is that some tribes will come in and say, we would get better health care. We would be able to deliver better health care to our community members if we got the middleman out of the middle of this, that being Indian Health Services, and directly funded the tribes to deliver their services. Because I just take some off the top. It's just the more you go through, and I don't know if that's a smart thing or a bad thing. And I suspect for some tribes it's probably would be beneficial. Others might not have the infrastructure to be able to do that themselves. But it's something that I would like the tribes to look at and see if it makes sense to do something like that and what it would take to do it. But I agree that the advanced appropriation, as you know, it was recommended that we not do that in the last appropriation process. I know Shelley fought very hard for that when she was chairman of this committee and got it done. We're not going back on that. But we need to make it mandatory funding. I think Indian Health Services is the only health care program that is not mandatory funding in this program, or in health services delivered by the federal government. You mentioned the number of tribal members in Fort Hall that get Medicaid. That I know the state of Idaho is looking at cutting back because they have a budget problem right now. They're looking at cutting back on Medicaid. They're looking at cutting back on the Medicare expansion program and other things. How's that going to affect your members?
Affect us very deeply because, as I mentioned, over 50% of our tribal members are on Medicaid and rely on Medicaid, and so does the IHS to help fund their program, relies on that as well. So it would impact us very deeply because it's programs that are very much needed not only by our community but Idaho as well. Behavioral health, we all have those problems in our communities, and by cutting those, we're looking at having some not so good things happen in our community. So we need to really keep those home health care. Many of our elders depend on that, not just on Indian reservations, but everywhere, in the state of Idaho. So cutting Medicaid would really impact us.
Okay. I was glad we were able to get the Kuski fish hatchery issue solved. Sometimes when new people come into administration, they do things that they don't know the impact of in the long run and stuff. So I was glad we were able to work that out. And you can't do a fish hatchery and fund it 3/4 of the year. It's just kind of crazy. Anyway, Ms. Pingree?
Great. Thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to see everyone from the Idaho tribes. We know how much the chair works closely with you and thinks, about the importance of his home state. So I'm glad that you have a real champion there, and it's good to hear some of the issues that you're all here to share with us. And Chief Allen, thank you for Chairman Chief Allen. Love that name. We have a young man in our town whose mother named him King, and his last name is Arthur. Go figure. My children have many things they're angry about, but luckily I didn't misname them. No, but I think Chief Allen is an appropriate name and wonderful, and obviously you were destined to this role. So thank you for sharing that story with us. And I really did appreciate, often we hear that, but just emphasizing once again about how tribes impact rural communities around them and the great benefit that you provide. And when you are underfunded, it just makes it that much more challenging for rural communities. And I represent a very rural state in Maine, and we know how important it is to have input into the rural economy. So thank you for that. And Chairwoman Thompson, I'm glad the Chair picked up on that because I think that is really critically important. I'm also very worried about what will happen when these Medicaid cuts kick in. But already, as you mentioned, there are so many issues because we've gotten very dependent on having tribal members be covered by Medicaid. And I don't know how we should be thinking about that in this year's appropriations cycle. But if there's ways we could write some language in there to help protect that, whatever we can do to sort of prevent disaster when there's suddenly a huge pool of unfunded people, because it's been a benefit in a sense for us to not have to provide so much for IHS if people are funded through other ways. But if there's a moment that this is going to be a cliff or if it's already an issue or if it's something to do with how you work with CMS, you mentioned that. Anyway, I just hope we can continue to talk about that as we move on. We will have IHS before us. I don't know if we have BIA before us, but I think we should also be talking about the many vacancies that were created last year and just getting a real accounting of what has been. Sometimes there were vacancies created because we didn't need that position, but I think the majority of them were retirements or probationary people who really were important, and I know it's been hard to fill those positions at BIA, so that's an important point for you to bring up, and thank you, too, for being here. It's really been very beneficial to hear your testimony. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Again, I want to join my colleagues. Just thank you for being here. It's helpful. I never can see that light. Okay,
I know,
that's better. It's very hard to see. So thank you for your testimony. I can assure you, I think I made this statement last year, whatever the presidential budget says, this committee will not be eliminating advanced funding. It's just not going to happen. It's a bipartisan commitment. We worked very hard. Ms. McCollum was here earlier, and as the chairman pointed out, Ms. Pingree's worked hard on this, and he's worked hard on this. And I didn't think we were going to need it so quickly. Yeah,
that's right.
But last year's shutdown is a critical example of why we are not going to touch that. So that is going to stay in place regardless. And we will, try. Look, we all realize this system is underfunded, and I think it's largely underfunded. And Mr. Simpson made this remark that it ought to be mandatory. Indian Health Service is older than all the mandatory programs we have. And I think it was just sort of out there on its own. It was one of the few areas the federal government actually had an obligation to provide health care because of treaty and trust responsibilities before Medicaid, Medicare, and all those programs. So it never got pulled into the system. That's something I think we should look at because it's I don't know how you get there given the size of the budget and the range of responsibilities this subcommittee has, although it's done pretty valiant efforts to do things. And, I'm very fortunate. My tribe has a lot of outside income, so we contract and then we add money on top of. Not every tribe has the opportunity to do that. And so our health care is actually very, very good, but it's because it's not all provided by the federal government. It's because we have additional income. And there are, some programs that actually help you in terms of if you'll build the facilities, the federal government will start funding, et cetera. Again, we have the ability to take advantage of that. Many other tribes do not. So there's inequities built into the system. I do think Secretary Kennedy has made some interesting proposals about making extra money available for infrastructure in hospitals. And we'll see if he can do that. I certainly would be supportive of it. And we'll see what else we can do. But this healthcare challenge isn't going away. It's going to take long-term, sustained effort. This committee has done that. I think it's steadily increased healthcare expenditures, but we're so far behind. And again, the demands on this budget outstrip the size of the budget. That's just the truth. So we'll continue to work on this, try and make progress. But the other challenge we have here is getting the personnel we need to a lot of these facilities. I had the opportunity to take a tour of what I call first world Indian country and third world Indian country with Mr. Simpson a number of years ago. And that was tribes that had ability to spend money and tribes that didn't. There was no difference in the need or the want or the ability, but it makes a big difference when you have extra revenue. But I noticed every place we went, they found out Simpson was a dentist. They wanted him to retire from Congress, and they would hire him immediately. Had job offer after job offer out there. So I'm not worried about your retirement. I think you're going to be okay. But again, those kinds of things are hard to get in remote localities, and hard to retain. Housing's an issue as well. Folks have to have housing near where they're going to work, and sometimes that's not available. So you get such incredible turnover at a lot of these facilities. It's hard to get continuity in care. So anyway, thank you for being here and advocating. We will do the best we can, but I will assure you, advanced funding will not be in jeopardy, no matter what the president's budget says when it rolls out, probably later this month. Yield back.
Josie? Thank you all again for being here. I know how hard it is to get here from Idaho. I do it every other weekend or something like that.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. One last, you posed a question, and I just kind of wanted to. Not all tribes are the same, and it is a double-edged sword. But under my tenure as chairman, I welcome cutting the middleman out of the thing, and just like Idaho just was recently awarded $185 million for rural health. That kind of stuff that would really help Indian country. Cutting the middleman out, letting the tribes control their own destiny and do that, and that's what Coeur d'Alene has done. And I've been very blessed to really move in that direction. Like Chairman Cole said, not all tribes are equal, and some have the resources and some don't. And but like I said, I think it really, if you take that parental, way of thinking out of the mixture, I think it would be very helpful, because Indian country has become more and more sophisticated. Yeah. So,
can I make a point here?
Go ahead.
Actually, toured some reservations. Actually, it was the same trip I was talking about when Mr. Simpson and Mr. Cullum was on that trip. And some of the tribes we visited did not want to get out of IHS, because I asked that question everywhere I went. Why aren't you running this yourself? We made that decision as a tribe back in the 1970s. And it was before we had gaming revenue and a lot of other things have helped us. And our head of our medical system at the time, who's now the longest-serving chief in our history, Governor Anatubby, made the decision that, look, he said, it's pretty simple. He said, a lot of our own people wondered whether or not we could do it, but nobody looks after your own people like your own people. And he said the biggest, first place they saw a change was wait times, because you could sit there for hours. Nobody knew how to get a hold of IHS to complain, but they certainly knew how to get a hold of their tribal legislator. And those phones started ringing, and wait times started changing pretty dramatically. And we found in our tribe, it helped us train, honestly, a whole generation of administrators in budgeting and things that are, when you're running a complex system, that we later, as we moved into more commercial activity, that expertise was brought in there and helped us. So, again, it's always tribal choice. We have an obligation as the federal government here as to provide the service. So I would never want to take away the choice, but I would encourage most tribes that you ought to think about running this yourself, because at the end of the day, you'll run it better than the federal government, almost certainly, even if you have no additional resources to bring. Anyway, it's my view, but their decision.
Yep.
Yield back.
Appreciate it. Well, for all of you that don't know, I get a kick out of Chief Allen, and I always, now is he a chief or is it Chief Allen? I've gone through that over the years, but
Oh, Chief
when you see
Chairman's
when
a
you
pretty
see
good title.
when you see him smiling, I've never seen him that he doesn't have a smile on his face. So he's a great guy to be around. Donna, it's always good to see you again. Always love to get up to the Nez Perce Reservation. They do a great job up there in a lot of areas. So thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to. I'm proud to work for you all. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, Tony.
Tony in there somewhere?
Yep, it is. Pronounce your last name for me.
Satok
Satok?
Mule.
Mule. I got the mule part. The Satok was kind of, and also Vivian Corthus and Christina Andrew.
Yes.
I'm going to go up to NIH for just a second. If you'll all excuse me for a minute, I've got to run up to a different hearing for a few minutes because I got a couple questions I need to ask up there. Mr. Elsie is going to take over the chair here, so I appreciate all you being here today. Dr. Tony, you're first.